Welcome to our salt dough lesson with Miss Arnowski. Today we're going to be making some salt dough in preparation for making some art projects for the next coming weeks. Usually I would love to use clay. If sometimes people ask me, Miss Arnowski, what's your favorite type of art? And I say I love clay. But clay comes from the ground and it's a special type of dirt, and that backyard that you can see outside, that doesn't have any clay in it. So we're gonna make some salt dough instead. Salt dough is really like a Play-Doh. So let's get started. I have my handy dandy recipe here that I wrote out really big, but you also need some other things to get started. So I'm gonna tell you a few things that you might need, and you can go pause the video as you gather them. All right, so I started with a baking pan. It's just like a nice spot to make the salt dough so that I don't make a big mess. Now this might be really fun, but it would be less fun if you made a big mess all over your kitchen and then had to clean it up, and then your parents were mad at you. So make sure you maybe get yourself a little baking pan, and that way it contains all of our ingredients, and so they're in one spot. I also ripped off a piece of tin foil, so I got my tin foil and covered my pan. That way I don't even have to wash the pan after. I can just ball up the tin foil and throw it away. You could also use parchment paper or plastic wrap to cover your sheet. It's up to you. That's optional. You also need kind of a medium-sized mixing bowl and something to mix with. This is like a spatula. You could use a spoon, a fork, whatever works for you that you have around the house. You're gonna gather yourself some all-purpose flour. Now, this is a bag of all-purpose flour. Sometimes you might have flour in one of these. Be really careful if you have flour in this because, oopsie, some people are fancy. They have some flour like that in a jar. So you might have to ask someone in your house where your flour is. I'm gonna use our little bag for now. And then finally, you're gonna need some salt in the big container. The little salt shakers on your table aren't gonna do it. And some water. Now I have mine pre-measured in my little measuring cup. Oh, I'm gonna turn this around. You might have this type of measuring cup. You also might have some metal ones. You're gonna have to see what is in your house. Now, I measured this to 3/4. That's what it says on my recipe. All right, so I got it right to the 3/4 line, and this is like a really, really big alert, like, Make sure you don't spill this in your house, right? You always really want to carry things super carefully with 2 hands. Walking, should you be running with this? No. Walking, you fill it in the sink. Right, and that is our water. So, right, to review, you need some flour, big thing of salt, 3/4 cup of water, a pan, your tin foil to cover, your bowl, your spatula, and any other measuring cups that you might need. Again, you might want to pause the video right now and gather all this stuff together, set up your workspace. I'm gonna get started. So, I have my handy dandy recipe. I have my bowl. Now I'm gonna start with 2 cups of flour, right? It says 2 cups of flour. How many cups? 2. Okay, so I'm gonna take my flour bag. I'm gonna open it. Now, if you are using metal cups, I'm gonna find the one that says 1 cup on it. It's the biggest one probably. And I'm gonna scoop it really carefully. Make sure your hands are clean before you do this. Ooh. You wanna fill it up to the top so it doesn't go over, but you also wanna make sure, there's like a little, there's a little indent here. I'm gonna get more. Reach back in. I'm using the bag rag to smooth it out on top, you know, because I'm fancy. And then I'm just gonna plop it right in my bowl. I need to do that again, so that's 1 cup. I need, how many cups? 2. Okay, so I'm gonna scoop again. Okay, it's pretty much filled up. Put it into my bowl. And then I can just kind of leave this here on my sheet, and it's not gonna get like the rest of my workspace dirty. I like to clean up as I go along. So I'm gonna fold up the flour and put it to the side. Okay, so I checked off 2 cups of flour. Now I need half a cup of salt. That's a fraction right there. I'm gonna find my half cup. Ooh, this says half cup. So I know that's what I want to use. I'm gonna hold it over my pan. I'm gonna take my salt, open it up, and I'm gonna pour, and I'm gonna pour, and I'm gonna pour some more. And my goal is to get all the way up to the tippy top without it spilling over. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Maybe just gently shake it out. Ooh, I did really well. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay. And then that half a cup of salt. Now, you're gonna notice that the salt almost looks like the texture of sand, where the flour is like this really fluffy texture. That's gonna be really cool when we mix it together. So I'm gonna gently put it in there. And last but not least, right, we have the 3/4 cup of water. Okay, I wanna talk to you about math here. I know, you're like, Ms. Ranowski, this is an art lesson. What are we talking about math for? Now, my handy dandy measuring cup has a measurement that says 3/4. Where is it? Over here, 3/4. And I'm just gonna gently pour it in. Okay. But if you don't have that type of measuring cup, you might wanna use this little cup. It says 1/4. But if you need 3/4, you would have to fill this up how many times? Hopefully you know 3, so that'd be 3/4, but I don't need to use that. Okay, so we're going to now stir, stir, stir. And that's another reason why we have it on this sheet, so we don't really make a big mess. But it's also gonna be a little bit liquidy right now, so make sure that you're not stirring too like ferociously, not like this. Like, calm yourself down a little bit, take a deep breath, and really gently mix it to start with, because that water is all goopy in there. Ooh, this is looking good. So again, we're making this for future projects. You can see this is kind of a lot of dough, but we're gonna save it and we're gonna make a few different projects out of it. Now, that does not mean you can't play with it first. After you make this, if you're like, oh, but I really wanna play with it, you can just kind of play with it in your own time. But then afterwards, you do need to save it, and we're gonna be making some art projects out of this later. Okay, so I kind of have the dough mixed almost all the way. Okay, ooh, ready for close-up? Ooh, ooh, okay. So it's almost like really a little bit sticky still, and this is where you might need to touch it with your hands. So I'm finishing mixing it, and I might actually take this and put a little extra flour on my sheet here so that my dough hands don't get really goopy. Okay, I'm ready. And I'm just gonna start squishing it together. Ooh, it feels really nice. So that texture of the salt, like the sand, and the texture of the flour that was really nice and fluffy has made a really soft salt dough. Again, if it's really sticky, you might want to add a little extra flour to the mix. If it's really dry, you might just want to keep playing around with it, or put it back in your bowl and add more water. Now, for next time, okay, well, you could play with it right now, but we want to save it for next time. So what you're going to do is you're going to find a plastic baggie. All right, in the plastic baggie, you probably want to put some flour. It's going to like stick in here. So I'm going to again get some flour, put it in my plastic baggie. Okay, and clunk it in. And I'm going to save this for next time. This can be sealed up real tight and put in your refrigerator. You might want to take like a Sharpie marker and write salt dough, do not eat. It'd be really gross. All right, I hope you had really fun creating today. Now remember, it's time to clean up. So this should go in the sink or in your dishwasher, and you gotta rinse it, and you gotta, put back your salt, put back your flour. I'm watching. Have fun.